He helped a stranger, lost his job, and thought the worst was behind him. But when over 30 bikers rumbled into his quiet street, everything changed. What started as a simple act of kindness turned into a ride that would lead him back to his past, reshape his future, and inspire an entire town. This isn't just a story. It's a reminder that doing the right thing can echo louder than we ever expect. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and like the video, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. If this story moved you, we'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below and let us know what you think. Now, let's jump into the story. Noah Milton started work before the sun came up. The air was always cold at that hour, the kind of cold that sat in your bones and stayed with you through the day. He didn't mind. Routine kept him grounded. It gave his life rhythm. And after everything he had been through, rhythm mattered. He worked the early shift at a shipping depot on the edge of town. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. And more importantly, it let him be home by the time his 10-year-old son, Ezra, came home from school. Noah's life had become a careful balance of work and fatherhood. There were no vacations, no free weekends, and barely enough to make ends meet. But there was love, and there was effort, and that was enough, for now. That morning, like many before it, he parked his old truck behind the building, walked through the back door, and clocked in. The depot was quiet. Only the hum of machinery filled the space. As he made his rounds, checking loading bays and inspecting pallets, something caught his eye near the far wall. A shadow. A shape that didn't belong. Noah moved closer, slow and cautious. There, half hidden behind a stack of crates, was a man. His clothes were torn. A leather jacket hung from his shoulders, scratched and faded. One hand clutched his side. Blood stained his shirt. His breathing was shallow, and his eyes told a story no words could. Noah didn't ask who he was. He didn't ask why he was there. He simply knelt down and offered the man a bottle of water from his bag. "You're hurt," Noah said softly. The man didn't respond. He just nodded once, slowly, carefully. Noah looked around. The cameras didn't cover this corner. No one else was nearby. It would be easy to walk away, to pretend he saw nothing. But that wasn't Noah's way. He grabbed a clean rag from his toolkit, pressed it gently to the man's side, and helped him sit upright. It wasn't much, but it was something. The man's eyes stayed fixed on him the whole time. No fear, no words, just quiet. After a few minutes, the man stood, unsteady but upright. He gave a slight nod, a silent thank you. And then, without a word, he slipped out the back door and disappeared into the early morning fog. Noah stood there for a moment, unsure if it had really happened. But the blood on the rag and the footprints on the floor said it had. He didn't mention it to anyone, not that day, not the next. But something about the encounter stayed with him. 2 days later, his manager called him into the office. "We reviewed the camera footage," the manager said. "You were off route for 15 minutes. Noah explained as best he could. Said he thought he saw something. Checked it out. Nothing serious. Just a minor delay. But the manager wasn't listening. "You didn't report it," he said. "You breached protocol." Noah was let go on the spot. No warning, no second chance. He packed up his things in silence. He didn't argue, didn't beg. He knew the rules, but it still hurt. Not because of the job, but because he had done what he thought was right. And now, he had nothing to show for it. He walked out of the depot for the last time, the early sun rising behind him, casting long shadows on the pavement. When he got home, he didn't tell Ezra the truth. "Not right away. I'm taking a few days off," he said with a smile. Ezra nodded, then went back to his drawing. Noah watched him for a moment, then stepped outside to clear his head. He sat on the porch, staring down the street. His mind raced with questions. How would he pay rent? How long would the savings last? What would he do next? The wind picked up, carrying with it the soft sound of distant engines. But Noah didn't notice. His thoughts were too loud. He had helped a stranger, and now he was jobless. Was it worth it? He didn't have the answer. Not yet. But deep down, he hoped that doing the right thing still meant something in the world. And far away, down a road Noah couldn't see, a group of riders had already heard the story. They were coming, just not yet. Noah Milton sat by the window, staring out at the gray sky. The rain had been falling since early morning. Soft, steady, almost like a whisper. It tapped gently against the glass, filling the small house with a calm silence. His son, Ezra, was still asleep in the other room, curled up with a book he refused to finish until he read every last word. The house felt colder than usual, though the heater worked fine. Maybe it wasn't the air. Maybe it was the quiet. Or maybe it was the weight of what had happened. It had only been a week since Noah lost his job. One moment, he was clocking out after another long shift, and the next, he was being called into the office. No warning, no kindness. Just a short sentence and a cold stare. "You broke company policy," his supervisor had said. "You let a stranger onto the property." Noah didn't argue. He knew the man he had helped wasn't just any stranger. He had seen the pain in that biker's eyes. He saw blood, he saw fear, and he chose to act. Not because it was allowed, but because it was right. But right didn't pay the bills. Noah had been careful not to show his worry to Ezra. He smiled when he needed to, joked when it mattered. But inside, the fear grew. Every passing day felt heavier. Savings were tight, the job market was cold, and the rain only seemed to echo what he felt inside. He spent most of the day fixing small things around the house. A loose cabinet, a broken drawer, small tasks to keep his hands busy and his thoughts quiet. But every now and then, he'd glance outside, drawn to something he couldn't explain. And then, on the fourth evening, the rain stopped. The silence was louder than the rain itself. Noah stood on the porch, arms crossed, staring down the empty road. The sky was still gray, but dry. The air smelled like wet earth and quiet tension. He could feel something. Not fear, not hope. Something else. Something waiting. Then, it happened. A sound in the distance. Low, steady, almost like thunder. But not from the sky. Engines. Not one, not two, but many. They didn't rush. They didn't roar. They moved with purpose, slow and steady. The kind of sound that made people step outside and wonder what was coming. Noah's heart raced. He stepped off the porch, feet planted in the damp grass. The rumble grew louder, closer, and then they appeared. Motorcycles, lined up in perfect formation. Headlights cutting through the fading light. Leather jackets, worn boots, hard eyes and steady hands. Over 30 riders, each one different, but connected by something unseen. They came to a stop, right in front of Noah's house. For a moment, no one moved. Ezra, now awake and wide-eyed, peeked through the window. Noah stayed calm, though his heart beat faster than it had in years. A man stepped forward from the group, tall, weathered, a short gray beard and eyes that held years of stories. "You Noah Milton?" he asked. Noah nodded slowly. "You helped one of ours." Noah didn't speak. He remembered the man he had found by the loading dock, the cuts, the silence, the thank you whispered before he disappeared. The rider continued. His name is Cal. He's alive because of you. Noah looked past the man. Cal stood near the back, clean, standing straight, a faint scar on his cheek. He gave a small nod. No smile, just quiet respect. The leader reached into his coat and pulled out an envelope. He handed it to Noah. "We don't forget kindness," he said. "This is from the crew." Noah opened it slowly. Inside was cash, enough to cover rent, food, maybe more. But it wasn't just about the money. It was the way they looked at him. Like he mattered. Like his choice had meant something. "We're not here to cause trouble," the leader added. "We came to say thank you, and to tell you this. If you ever need us, we'll be there." With that, the group began to mount their bikes. The engines started again, loud and steady, filling the street with sound and presence. As they rode away, neighbors peeked out from behind curtains. Whispers spread. No one understood why so many bikers had come, but Noah knew, and that was enough. He stood there for a long time after they left, holding the envelope, watching the road, feeling the weight of what had just happened. Ezra joined him on the porch. He looked up at his dad and said, "Are they your friends now?" Noah smiled, just a little, something like that. They went inside. The house didn't feel so cold anymore. Noah sat at the table, stared at the envelope, and took a deep breath. Maybe the road ahead wasn't so uncertain after. Maybe whispers in the rain lead to the loudest answers. And maybe, just maybe, help always comes back when you least expect it. Noah Milton never imagined his life would take this turn. Just weeks ago, he was out of work, uncertain about the future, and barely hanging on. Now, things were changing. Not fast, not loud, but in steady, quiet ways that mattered. It started with a second visit from the riders. No engines this time. No crowds. Just 3 of them. They knocked on his door one morning as the sun was rising. Knox, the tall one with the gray beard, stood in front. "We got something to show you," he said. Noah didn't ask questions. He trusted them. Not because he had to, but because something deep inside told him he could. He followed them across town, past the old highway, and beyond the empty fields. They pulled up beside a run-down building, at the edge of a forgotten lot. Rusted walls, cracked windows, weeds taller than a man. God! But something about it felt alive, like it had been waiting. "This used to be a repair shop," Knox said. "Been closed for years. Belonged to your father." Noah froze. His father had died when he was a boy. There were few memories, even fewer words spoken about him. But here it was, his place, still standing. "He was one of us," Knox added. "Quiet, honest, kept our bikes running through all kinds of trouble." Noah walked inside slowly. Dust floated in the sunlight. Tools were scattered. Some still hung on the walls, untouched. The air smelled like oil, time, and something almost sacred. "We cleaned up a bit," one of the riders said. "Figured you might want to bring it back." Noah stood in silence. It was more than a building. It was a beginning. Over the next few days, the crew helped Noah clean it out. They fixed the wiring, patched the roof, replaced the cracked floor tiles. It wasn't perfect, but it was his. They even found his father's old toolbox in the back, still locked, still strong. Knox handed him the key. "You're not just fixing bikes," he said. "You're fixing stories." They called it Milton Motors. Ezra designed the logo, bold letters with a small wrench underneath. And beneath the name, in his own handwriting, he added the words, Kindness drives change. Noah hung it right above the front door. Business started slow. A few curious locals came by. Old trucks, dusty motorcycles, even lawnmowers. Noah didn't charge much. Sometimes nothing at all. He just wanted to help, the way someone had helped him. Word spread quickly. People remembered what the riders did for him. They remembered the noise, the gift, the envelope. They saw the man who helped the stranger and lost his job. And now, they saw the man building something honest, one repair at a time. Noah worked long hours, grease on his hands, sweat on his brow. Ezra often sat nearby, doing homework or sketching more signs for the shop. It became their routine. Quiet, simple, strong. Sometimes members of the biker crew stopped by. They never stayed long, just enough time to drop off a part, check on Noah, or share a story from the road. It wasn't a gang. It wasn't a club. It was a brotherhood built on respect. One day, a woman pulled into the lot with a flat tire and a car full of groceries. She looked nervous, unsure if she could afford help. Noah didn't ask. He fixed the tire, helped reload the groceries, and handed her a card. "No charge," she said. "Just pass it on when you can." She cried right there in the parking lot. Those moments became common. Not the tears, but the gratitude. People felt safe there, not judged, not mushed, just seen. Noah found purpose in the smallest tasks, tightening a bolt, replacing a belt, offering coffee to someone waiting. He wasn't just running a garage. He was building trust. And slowly, the town began to change. People helped each other more. Stories were shared. Kindness moved through the streets like a quiet wind. Noah never expected praise. He didn't want it. He just wanted to keep going, to build something that would last, not just for Ezra, but for anyone who needed a second chance. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Ezra asked him a question. "Did Grandpa really fix bikes here?" Noah nodded. "Yeah, and now we do too." Ezra smiled. "Maybe one day, I will." Noah looked around the shop, the tools, the photos, the sign above the door, and realized something. This wasn't just a repair shop. It was a home for stories that needed a place to land. And in every bolt tightened, every part replaced, a piece of hope was restored. Noah Milton didn't plan for any of it. He just showed up, and that made all the difference. It was a quiet morning, the kind of quiet that felt almost too still. The sky was clear, the air cool, and the town was just waking up. Birds moved between rooftops. A dog barked in the distance. But at Milton Motors, everything was calm. Noah Milton stood at the front of the garage, wiping grease from his hands. He looked out across the road, the same view he had seen for months now. The small shop had become something more than a workplace. It was a symbol of second chances, a place where people came not just for repairs, but for peace. Inside, Ezra sat at the front desk drawing again. This time, it was a sketch of the garage, with motorcycles lined up outside. Under it, he had written the words, "A place where roads meet again." Noah smiled at the drawing. It reminded him how far they had come. Then, just before noon, a car pulled into the lot. It was small, old, and clearly struggling. Smoke puffed from the hood as it came to a stop. The door opened slowly, and a man stepped out. Young, maybe 20. His clothes were worn, his eyes tired, and his hands shaking just a little. He walked up to Noah and stopped short. "Are you the owner?" he asked. "I am," Noah said. "I heard someone told me you help people here." Noah nodded once. "We do our best." The man looked down at his feet, then back up. "I don't have much. Just trying to get somewhere. Anywhere but here." Noah looked at the car. Then at the man, he saw something familiar in his eyes. Something he had once seen in the mirror not so long ago. "We'll take a look," Noah said. He didn't ask for money, didn't ask for details. He just motioned for the young man to follow him inside. As the crew got to work on the car, Noah handed the visitor a cup of coffee and sat with him on the bench outside. "What's your name?" Noah asked. "Liam," he said. "I've been sleeping in my car the past few nights. Lost my job. Long story." "I get it," Noah said. "You don't have to tell it." "Not yet." They sat in the kind that doesn't feel heavy. Just honest. By the end of the day, the car was running. Not perfect, but enough to keep going. Enough for Liam to move forward. When Noah handed him the keys, Liam's voice cracked. "Why are you doing this?" Noah paused for a moment, then said, "Someone once did it for me." Liam looked at him, eyes wet, and nodded. He didn't say anything more. He didn't have to. A week later, the sound of engines returned. It wasn't loud or fast. It was steady, familiar. Knox and the riders had come back. This time, it was different, quieter, more focused. Noah welcomed them like old friends. Handshakes, nods, smiles that didn't need words. They gathered in the shop, surrounded by the smell of oil and old wood. Knox stepped forward with something wrapped in cloth. He placed it on the table and unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a leather vest, worn but strong. The back patch read, "Roadhouse Crew. We want you to ride with us. K." Noah didn't answer right away. He looked at the vest, then at Ezra, who had quietly stepped beside him. "Just one ride," Noah said. "Then I come home." Knox smiled. "Just one ride." The next morning, Noah stood beside a restored motorcycle, his father's old bike, brought back to life by the crew. It gleamed under the morning sun. He put on the vest, adjusted the helmet, and climbed onto the bike. The others waited patiently, lined up and ready. Ezra watched from the steps of the garage, holding the drawing he had made. He waved, and Noah gave a small nod. Then the engine started. They rode through the town slowly. People stopped and watched. Some waved. Some stood in silence. Everyone knew what it meant. They weren't just riders. They were a family. A moving reminder that kindness travels, that it grows. They reached the hills outside of town, where the roads curved and the wind spoke in low tones. There, at the highest point, the group stopped. Noah removed his helmet and looked out over the valley. The sky stretched wide. The world seemed still. Knox stood beside him. "This is where we come to remember," he said. Noah nodded. "Thank you for all of it." "You earned it," Knox replied. They stood there for a while. No words, just the wind. Just the sound of stories that never needed to be told out loud. Then they rode back. When Noah returned to the garage, Ezra was waiting. "How was it?" he asked. "Quiet," Noah said. "In the best way." He placed the vest on the wall beside the sign. Not as a trophy, but as a reminder. The unexpected visitor. The last ride. The journey that brought them here. Noah Milton never set out to be noticed. He just did the right thing, and in doing so, he gave others the courage to do the same.